Hey there, Will Ripley here with Guitar Mastery Method. Maybe you know, but so many bands, so many songs have employed with great effect the D, C, and G chord. Of course, D major, C major, and G major. So in this video, I wanted to share with you some of the best D, C, and G tricks that I know and what famous bands have done with these three simple chords. Now, I'm gonna more or less assume that you know how to play a D, C, and G chord, but really quick, just for the people out there, check it out. We've got a D chord right here, so maybe you want to pause the video and look at that chord chart. If you already know a D, C, and G chord, go ahead and just start ripping through them. Okay, but the next chord, of course, is going to be a C chord. And again, maybe you want to pause the video, look at my fingers, look at that chord chart, okay? And then we've got a few different versions, really two different versions of a G chord. We're going to see this 3-finger G, and also this 4-finger G. We're going to talk about some of the differences. So again, maybe you want to pause the video, take a look at those chord charts, just get those chords under your fingers because you're going to absolutely need them to go and move forward with this lesson. All right, let's talk about DCG trick number 1. This is kind of in reference to a track like Gloria by Van Morrison. Where we've got a fast chord change from a C to a G, but this is really the big thing that I want to point out is whenever you're playing this classic C and going to a G, you're always going to want to play this 3-finger G shaped like this. A lot of us, when we're first learning this G chord, we're going to learn it like this, okay, a 3-finger G like this with our 2nd finger, 1st finger, and 3rd finger, okay? But as you can see, when you're in this position from a C, it's so much faster and easier to just bump these 2 fingers up towards the ceiling by 1 string each, and then your pinky finger is floating over here anyways, and it's so easy to get that G chord in place. Another tune that would really benefit from this G to C chord change like this would be Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash, which might sound something like this. So as you can see, that G to C chord change is greatly benefited when your G chord is played like this. All right, so the next D, C, and G trick is going to incorporate the C add 9 and the 4-finger G. A couple tunes that come to mind when I think about this particular D, C, G chord sequence would be Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. And also Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd. So the big thing here that I want to point out with this particular DCG trick is check out my 3rd finger while I play all 3 chords. It stays in the same place. So that's what's really important about this particular DCG trick is you just recognize that that 3rd finger is anchored and shared amongst all 3 chords. Now the next tip here that I want to show you is that when you're switching to this C add 9 or a G, it's actually really beneficial to add on your pinky finger to almost basically make a D sus4 chord, okay? Because that is going to be the top part of the next 2 chords, right? And this works beautifully when you're also going from a D right to a G major, okay? So it sounds like this. So if I were to slow that down, you can see that that's the transitionary moment that takes place to either switch me to a G or the C add 9, is to actually add on my pinky finger first. And another thing that I want to point out here is that as I was kind of riffing on in the Dead or Alive sequence there, is that if you take off your 2nd finger, you can play a D sus2 to a D major, and then if you add on your pinky finger like we were talking about a second ago, you can play a D sus4. And actually just switching between those is just such a really important D major guitar trick. So you can see there I'm using hammer-ons and pull-offs, and also just basic strumming with it off and putting it back on will sound really, really nice. And furthermore, when we were talking about Sweet Home Alabama, a lot of these guys, they were just grabbing these chords and picking the notes in it. So if we were to arpeggiate that, we could kind of approximate something like the intro to Sweet Home Alabama. All right, so the next D-C-G trick that I wanted to show you, you hear in songs like Dear Prudence by the Beatles, The Needle and the Damage Done by Neil Young, and also White Room by Cream, which of course features Eric Clapton on guitar. So it looks and sounds a little something like this. All right, so we'd start out with a D, of course, or a D sus2. You'd move over to a C add 9. But in this case, actually having your first finger on the second fret of the G string actually sounds pretty nice because we've got this nice 6th degree. So it's kind of like outlining a C major 6 chord with an added 9. So we get this kind of like complex C chord. Okay, and that's going to set us up nicely to move over to this guy right here, which is a G chord with a B in the bass. This is one of those slash chords. So you'd see it written as G/B. Now, what's important to recognize is that it is a G major chord, right? If we just look at our 4-finger G, without our second finger and without our pinky finger, there's that G chord still intact, okay? And if you just move that B note down to B flat, okay, we get this kind of complex B flat chord, but really it's just kind of laying out the notes in a G minor chord, okay? And so that is the pattern. So as you can see, we've got this descending bass line from C, B to B flat, okay? So any one of those riffs, you can kind of jam on it with the D, C add 9, the G over B, and go down to that B flat there. So we'll just kind of riff on this for a second. So these techniques should help you not only learn some of these tunes, but just incorporate the D, C, and G into your own playing. And who knows, you might even write one of your own songs using some of these techniques. And while we're talking about playing more and getting better, make sure to check out the practice session cheat sheet. This is a free download, just a way to say thanks for hanging with me here, Will Ripley and Guitar Mastering Method. And right on this page, if you just look around, you'll find a link to download this. Totally free, totally on the house, so make sure you don't leave without it. Otherwise, my name's Will. Thanks for checking out this lesson from Guitar Mastery Method, and we'll see you in the next one.